My name is Ben Shorter, and what I'm talking about is how to build a high-performing sales team in a post-COVID environment. Nice big mouthful of a presentation here. Throughout, look, if you've got any questions, ask me in chat. So I'm known for very sort of reactive speaker style. So I'm constantly going to be looking at your questions. If you've got anything, let me know and I'll go into it. In terms of my presentation, what I'm covering off is 4 core things. So the first thing is, as a business owner, understanding what you need within your business in terms of the processes and the people. Then for that, it's once you understand what you need within your business, how do you actually go out and recruit people? How do you then know that you've got the right person, and how do you train them to be right for that job? And then the final thing is, once you've got the right person doing the job, how do you manage performance? So I'm quite lucky that I've got an hour, so I'll be able to go into detail on all these different parts. As I said, please let me know if you've got any questions. I'm going to be in the chat throughout. So let me know if there's anything that I can answer or go into more depth about. So I remember speaking at Base Conference last year, and I was speaking on the same topic: how do you build high-performing salespeople? And I remember starting off with this slide saying the world is changing. And what I was pointing out that over the last 10, 11 years, there's been an explosion in the amount of SMEs that exist within Europe. And I was making a point that the marketplace is more and more competitive ever. Now I've got to change all my introduction because the world has completely changed again. So before, I was talking about how competitive it is to find and onboard the right salesperson. The world changed overnight. So as of this March, we've all been affected by COVID-19 going through the world. And what's that meant in terms of business? Well, the first thing is there's been a complete change in what a buyer is looking for. So products that sold really well prior to COVID are no longer selling. Other products have exploded. And within marketplace to marketplace, there's had to be masses of change in terms of how we deliver our products and our services. So in terms of my personal business, I was running a lot of events. And with that, we've had to move online. I was actually delivering training for lots of recruitment agencies. I now focus on training my own staff within my own recruitment agency. And the reason for that is we've had to adapt within marketplaces. The next core thing is there's going to be a load of redundancies. So businesses are going to downsize, and for that means there's going to be a lot of talent entering the marketplace. So this is why I wanted to talk a bit about recruitment within this presentation, because redundancies actually brings opportunities for good SMEs to expand their workforce. And the third thing to think about now in terms of a changing world is the rise of remote working. So some of the clients that I used to have were all focused in big offices. Now you don't necessarily need a big office. And this is why I suppose my presentation today is more important than it's ever been, because as a business, we have to react quickly. We have to really make sure that we're able to survive a difficult time. And this is the thing. In times of survival, it allows for businesses to be created in the right way. And then later on, when we're in a growth marketplace, those businesses that have grew in a harsh market can expand rapidly. Fortune favors the brave. So before COVID-19 happened, I was in this real luxury of being seen as one of the best trainers within the recruitment market in the UK. So I had some nice big clients. Some of the businesses that I worked with were 8 figures, 9 figures. One of my clients was a 150 million turnover business. And when COVID-19 started to escalate around the world and lockdowns happened, what I saw my 8 and 9 figure clients doing was making mass redundancies because they were uncertain. They didn't want crazy staff overheads. Certain companies within the United Kingdom have laid off a third of their workforce. However, and this is what makes this so important, is what we do now will dictate the next 10 years. Economies work in cycles. So there are times when the marketplace is really bad, where there's a struggle, and equally there are times of boom, where everything's going on and there's lots of things happening and there's lots of gross domestic produce being produced around the world. So there is lots of money being changing hands, and the marketplace is great. One thing that I've seen throughout my career is that people that started in really difficult marketplaces are those that can create long-term success. So within this particular presentation, if you think about my backstory, I started off in the recruitment industry in a sales role in 2009. So I had left university. I'd previously worked in recruitment, but I'd left in the middle of a recession. So every recruitment agency that I went to told me that I needed experience, until one of them eventually took me on trial for 1 week. And that's where I've got the office know-it-all picture. Within 2 years, I became one of their top performing consultants. So I was turning over, in terms of a salesperson, my revenue was hitting close to £100,000 a month. Sometimes I think the most I ever did in revenue across a month was almost £250,000. So this is the thing. They took a chance on me and I gave back to them. And because I had that degree of success, I decided at the age of 25 I was going to start my own business. So I started working within the expert and coaching space, doing events. And that started in 2013, 7 years ago. Over those 7 years, we've had crazy ups and downs, as anyone in business has. But ultimately, we've built a decent sized business. And then from that, I started to almost build a subset of that business focused on training for corporate companies, specifically training their recruitment teams, whether that was agency recruiters or in-house recruiters. And then my business was almost focused on delivering training to predominantly recruitment agencies, and then COVID happened. So what I did was invest in a recruitment agency. So rather than focus on training other people's teams, I now focus on my own. So I'm a director of 3 businesses which have a total of 18 people. And I tend to be the person that's responsible for training people. But equally, I still sell recruitment solutions. I still sell training solutions where necessary. And with that, my current mindset around this time really comes from the book Leaders Eat Last. We're going to be in a difficult time economically for probably the next sort of 6 to 18 months. And the reason why I say 6 to 18 months is that was how long the last recession lasted. Well, in fact, the last recession was almost like 3 years long. So with that, I'm almost planning for a period of economic uncertainty. And this is why, at the moment, my mindset is leaders eat last. So what I've done is take on board different team members. Now, team members take time to become profitable. And I think this is the first thing that I'll say to anyone in business, that if you're hiring a salesperson, they're not going to start making you loads of money straight away. It takes time. Bearing that in mind, what I'm doing at the moment is positioning as many different people across my 3 businesses as possible, operating in a lean way, but importantly, where I'm not necessarily taking lots of money from the business myself, and instead I'm investing in team members. Because this is something I can tell you, the right team members are very profitable. One of the things that really got me down about COVID is seeing people that were profitable getting made redundant. So this is why I decided to really focus on building my own team. And it's why today in this presentation, I'm effectively going to encourage you to focus on doing the same. So again, understanding what do you need within your business? What different people can support your business to grow? Then how do you recruit for that person who's going to support the growth of your business? What different things do you need to think about? Where are you likely to get that person from? What's the interview process got to be like? How do you actually analyze and evaluate that person's previous performance? How do you then create a plan of how they're going to succeed for you? And then once that person has started, how do you actually onboard that person? How do you create a system where someone can join your business, they have a positive experience, and therefore that maximizes their performance? And then finally, the final thing is, okay, how do I manage someone's performance? And all of this content doesn't come from me reading lots of books. This comes from me training different teams, me running my own team. So across my career, I've probably had at least 60 people report into me at different points. And some of those people have been hugely profitable and successful for businesses. When I look at my case studies, the things that I've created are additional revenue streams for businesses that are 7 figures. So this is taken from that first-hand experience. Throughout this, please let me know what questions you've got in chat. So I'm going to be in chat the entire time. I'll be seeing what questions you've got and answering them. So based on everything I've said so far in terms of understanding what you need, how do you recruit for people, how do you onboard people, how do you manage performance, if everyone who's watching this could let me know what thing is most important for them, the reason why I say that is because then I can focus a bit more time and energy on that particular part. So within the chat, please let me know what topics you're most interested in hearing about, because what I'm going to do is potentially speed through certain parts, but then go into depth in areas which are really important for yourself. So the first thing, and my sort of foundation for anything, is you need to know your business. You need to know what causes your revenue to come in and what causes your cash to go. One of the things that I find speaking to business owners is sometimes they are looking for a quick fix. For example, you might want more revenue, so you go and invest in a salesperson. Salespeople take time to become profitable. So, for example, in different industries that I've come across, I was actually speaking to an old school salesperson earlier this week, and he said, I would expect someone to be profitable within 6 weeks. Doesn't happen. So when I look at my salespeople, my first 9 to 12 months is making sure that that person can break even, so that in year 2 they start to become profitable, and year 3 is where, as a business owner, I do well. Because this is the thing, too many business owners that I've seen are thinking the short term. People take a while to become profitable, and I've got a really good example for you. I was training an individual, and I trained him from scratch. In the first 6 months of his career, you could see that he had the desire to succeed, but ultimately things take time. It takes time for him to build a network. So he was as a recruitment consultant, and between 6 months 6 and months 12, he generated about £17,000. So to be fair, he wasn't on a great salary. He was on £25,000 a year. And his final 6 months of 2018, he generated about £16,000. In the first 6 months of 2019, he generated £30,000. In the second 6 months of 2019, he generated £90,000 of gross profit and around £500,000 of extra revenue or turnover. Now, this is the thing. All the best high-performing salespeople that I know take time to get there. So what you don't want to do from a business perspective is try and invest in a miracle. And I'll also say this, within every business that I'm involved with, the top salesperson is one of the directors. So often it's led from the front. And this is the irony. When I talk about one of my 8-figure clients, up until 2 years ago, now a business that's been going for 16 years now, up until 2 years ago, their managing director and founder was their highest grossing salesperson. So as a business owner, you really need to understand yourself. So if it isn't you being that person from the front, almost you want to have someone in at an early stage who understands what to do, how to sell. But equally, you need to recognize that it's going to take time. So for example, I'm dealing with an American company at the moment, and I'm recruiting their head of sales for UK and Europe. So effectively, what they've got is proof of concept on their product in America. So the company's been trading for 15 years. They've grown 20 million to a £20 million revenue stream. and they're now looking to expand within the UK and Europe. They know that to find a top performing salesperson, they're going to have to pay a high basic salary. So they're going to have to pay someone around £60,000 a year to be able to perform. Now, within that, they also know that their cost or their time to acquire each client tends to be about 26 touch points, which will happen usually over 9 months. So effectively, they've got to figure out this, in their business, the cash flow, to be able to afford this person. Now, the reality is, if you're a small business, you can't necessarily put aside £50,000, £60,000 before someone starts making money. So what you want to do is often be very smart. So if you understand your overheads, what you can do is plan points where you can bring someone in. So in terms of my business, what I tend to look at is covering around £3,000-4,000 a month in terms of salary or training or other types of costs for any salesperson that I bring in. And I need to make sure I can afford them without bringing a sale for at least 3 months and ideally 6 months. So often it means for each hire that I bring in, I want to have that income already saved for 3 to 6 months. That's the advice that I would give. To really be able to grow and scale your team, it always comes from you understanding your business. Now, one thing again that I found really useful is understanding all the different roles that my business needs to achieve so that I can always ensure that someone is filling that particular skill. So obviously, I focus a lot of my time with my salespeople. However, one of the people that I manage is a head of operations. Now, this particular person, I needed to know their job before I gave it to them. Often when it comes to recruitment, I think of recruiting 2 types of individual. One is the expert, someone that knows what to do, someone that's got experience in a similar environment, but I know that I need to spend more money on them. Or 2 is someone who doesn't know everything, who's at the beginning of their career, and I can get them for less money, but I know that I need to invest time into training people. Throughout this presentation, what you'll notice is slides of the Avengers of Marvel. You'll notice I'm in an Avengers t-shirt. So for me, my entire mindset is building this team of superheroes. It's getting the right people. And there's a trick that I use. So I mentioned at the beginning that I've got 18 people across businesses. One is my mum. My mum is a really, 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 really good administrator. Someone who's got an extremely high level of attention to detail. Someone that can sit and go through spreadsheets for hours and hours and not lose concentration. One of the other people I have in my business, or one of my businesses, is my dad. My dad was a very successful business person who really understands the operational side of a business. One of the other people that I have within one of my businesses was someone that attended a training course on sales. She was really into the training course. She's someone that was aligned to me. So one of the sneaky things that I did was always think about the types of people that I need within my business for the future. And I think over years and years and years. So I think over the course of 5 years, what type of people do I need? And is there anyone that I know who could potentially do that role? And then often I'm offering them a blank contract. So I'll find out what they want and how that matches with what I need them to do based on the budget that I've got. In terms of recruitment, I often see there's 3 core things that you want to think about. So firstly, it's having the budget. So for every hire you've got, they are going to cost you X amount of money. You need to work out how much money you've got at your disposal to be able to cost out. Can that person sit within my business for 6 months without them necessarily adding further cash flow onto my business? With the budget, think of different things, different hidden costs that you might have. So for example, if you're looking for a niche role, you might need to reach out to a recruitment agency. Recruitment agencies aren't cheap. You might want to, if you're not going to reach out to a recruitment agency, you might want to advertise it somewhere. Adverts aren't cheap. And I think this is the thing within a lot of industries. One thing that I see is free doesn't equate to good. If you can do something for free, doesn't mean you're necessarily going to do it for well. So what you want to encapsulate is a budget. Like I know a tech company, so I spend a lot of time working from their offices, and they're a £500 million turnover business with about 150 employees. And we'll often sit down over coffees and talk about their budgets for people. And one thing they do is bring in lots of people that are trainable, but they will go and spend £10,000 on a recruitment agency to get them a specialist developer who's got a niche skill set, because they know it's better to hire someone with experience than not for certain roles. Other times, it's better to hire for someone who's got the right personality or the characteristics or values to fit within your organization, and then train them up. Again, you want to budget time towards that. The second thing is really identify what problems you are looking for your employees to solve. So you want to be able to give someone a very clear and concise job description. You want to know day by day what they should be doing. And I think this is one of the core things that I find for a modern marketplace is being outcome driven. So what I do is identify the outcomes that my business needs, and then what tasks need to happen to drive those outcomes. With that in mind, what I can think of is then who do I need to cover off those tasks? And then the final thing is being able to evaluate whether the person that I'm recruiting can do the job. So, for example, I was bringing on a salesperson to enter and sell training solutions to recruitment agencies. So what I wanted to do was evaluate how they thought the sales process would go. So as part of the interview process, what I did was get them to pitch to me how they was going to break into client and imagine that I was a client. So we did a series of role plays. What you should always be able to do is have a clear strategy to evaluate whether someone's got the skill set to work for you. But equally, before you evaluate someone, you want to show them that they can evaluate you too, and get them to think about how they want to evaluate you as an employer. Because I think this is the thing, that one of the mistakes that people will make in a recession is that people are disposable. The best people build your business. Your people are your foundation to success, particularly over the long term. The most wealthiest people that I know personally are people that have been great at managing their staff and resource, building positive outcomes for people. I know a multimillionaire who once said to me, Ben, like, people are the lifeblood of your business. And he used to keep a folder which basically had all of his employees written down and their favorite things, so that he could always personalize any bonuses that he was going to give to them. That meant that those staff were continually loyal to him and they supported him reach his positive outcomes. Has anyone got any questions on recruitment or anything that I've spoken about so far before I go on to the next thing? Fantastic. So once we've recruited someone, we then want to create a strategy to onboard that person. When I talk about onboarding, again, what I'm thinking of are three core things. So the recruitment process doesn't end when someone starts your business, because that person could leave. And often, particularly for a startup business, the first 3 to 6 months is critical. And what I mean by that as a business owner is I want to weight my my recruitment process in a way where I can really train across the 3 months. So because I want to make sure I've got the right person, I need to, across the 3 months that they've joined me, ensure that they have a positive experience so that they can really add value to my business. Before I go on to that, though, I see that JP's got a question. What's the best way to get things moving in a business widely thought to be dying? I think, again, it depends what you mean by moving. But if you mean it in the sense of how do you get the right energy, so in terms of getting sales in a business that's dying, what you want to do is really think about what does the buyer want right now. So when I'm training a salesperson, I need them to identify what problems their target businesses are going through so they can give them a solution. Because I think this is the thing, businesses are going to be all over the place at the moment. So when I think about how I'm getting my business moving, what I'm thinking is always, what marketplaces can my team and I add the most value? So, for example, if I'm looking at, say, the print marketplace, I would think, where are there opportunities to print? Like, one thing is, for example, the importance of localized environments. So, one of the things that we've certainly seen in the UK, and I'm certain this is going to be something that happens throughout Europe, is businesses actually have to move a bit more locally. So that then means they might have to target a local demographic. Often the best way to sell to someone is to educate them as to why they need your solution. So it's really investing time within that process of educating your clients so that you can show them why they need print. What is the effectiveness of print now? I hope that makes a bit of sense, JP. So when I talk about onboarding, I've recruited someone, but now what I want to do is ensure their success. So say I'm bringing on a salesperson, the first thing I want to do is welcome them to the business. I want to show them what is important to me. I want to show them what my values are and why they should work for me. I think this is the thing, like I mentioned Simon Sinek book earlier, Leaders Eat Last. Before that, it was start with why. So when I'm onboarding someone, I want to show them, why do I operate within this marketplace? Like, I'm really passionate about every marketplace that I operate in. I think my training business is the best training business ever. I think my recruitment agency is the best recruitment agency ever. And with that, I want every single person I'm bringing on to feel exactly the same. Like, there's no market that I operate in where I don't feel that I'm adding value to clients. I only do things that I feel adds value to my business's clients. And for me as a manager, what I then need to do is add value to my team members. So the second thing I do when I've recruited someone new is I ensure that I have a clear process of what I need them to do so I can train them on my methodology through that. Now, sometimes with this, if I bring on board a skilled person, this training can be very collaborative. So it might not just be me teaching them how to do the job. It might be them teaching me how they do that job. So, for example, I've got a really skilled administrator who runs all my finances, and she runs a profit-first methodology on our accounts. That was something where on a day-to-day, she's consistently teaching me. But we work in collaboration to identify what the outcome of our role is, so I can then train the right things on them. And then finally, when it comes to onboarding someone, I always think about, how do I lead them as a manager? Like, I'm really key on core leadership skills. Like, again, for me as a business leader, apart from doing things like this, most of my day-to-day is solving different issues that my team members have. So whether that is Michelle, my head of operations, speaking to my accountant and me needing to facilitate a meeting between them and ensure that Michelle feels that she can make the right decision, or whether it's Liz negotiating with a key big corporate client and wanting my involvement to understand the commercials, to whether it's my trainee Liam understanding the basics of recruitment. So as a business owner, my job is to lead my team members so that they can give a positive experience to my clients. So ironically, although I do deal with some of my clients, the most important role in my day-to-day is dealing with my team members, and it's leading them in a positive way. So the final and fourth part of my presentation was managing performance. And I'm surprised at how quickly this is flying by. So again, guys, if you've got any questions within chat, please let me know. I'm happy to go on tangents. So far, I've talked a bit about understanding your business, recruiting people, onboarding people, and the final thing is managing performance. This is crucial. As a business owner, again, what you want to do is understand the outcomes over periods of time. So, for example, I worked with a client, and this client had been in business for 16 years. It took them 5 years to really get off the ground, but on year 6, they took on board a couple of salespeople. These salespeople are still there now. The reason those salespeople are there is because the directors understood that if they retain high-performing salespeople and did whatever it took to keep them, those people would consistently generate revenue for a business. So some of these salespeople are on salaries of in excess of £250,000 a year. However, they generate a lot more money. And I think as a business owner, you want to understand your numbers. And this is something that really struck me as COVID was occurring. Every recruiter that I've trained has generated a business a form of money. And in fact, about 50% of the recruiters that I've trained over the last 5 years have been profitable consultants, in the sense that they were generating more than £10,000 a month of GP. And if they deliver 10,000 a month of GP, they're operating at probably a net profitability of about £20,000 after all their operating costs are taken on. I thought about it, and I thought, if I had 10 average consultants and I was making 20% net profit from each one, I could personally make £250,000. So if I've got a consultant who's generating £150,000 a year, he could then make me, or she can make me, £30,000 of gross profit. So what I want to do is manage that person's performance. And what I'm going to do is give you the 3 key ways in which I really think about this. Now, when I say manage performance, I love actually, again, the Avengers. And Nick Fury is one of those. It's pushing someone when they need pushing. It's wrapping your arm around someone when they need a hug. It's really showing your staff that you care about their best interests and you care about them getting a result. So the first thing that I do when it comes to managing performance is make sure that everyone working within my business has a clear outcome that they work towards. My credit controller has a clear target. My head of operations has different targets. My salespeople certainly have targets. And these targets are often there are the outcomes. By having a clear outcome, I can then measure what's needed to go into that, the input needed. Now, being outcome focused is a blessing for me as an employer. It means I don't need to operate on a 9 to 5. I don't need people in an office. What I need to know is what inputs my staff need to do to create the outcomes that I want and measure those inputs. So people within my business can actually work in a way that is relevant to them. Now, what this has meant for me is I've got some really kick-ass people doing a great job for me without me really having to sort of push them too much, because they're focused on their outcome. My salespeople, they get given the retainers because I expect them to do a certain amount of sales activity. They can do that sales activity in 2 hours or 10 hours. Doesn't matter to me. If they do that sales activity, I know that I'm either going to get the outcome that I'm going to look for, or the inputs aren't good enough, which then brings me to my next point. I collaborate with my staff to understand what their weaknesses are, so that those weaknesses can be either dealt with, so that, for example, the unorganized salesperson has his life organized for him by someone else. One of my salespeople is phenomenal at closing deals, but not phenomenal at running their calendar. So it was worth me to find a virtual assistant to run their calendar. He's happy, which leads to a better outcome for me without actually having to focus on overcoming his weakness. He still has no organization. Someone else does it for him. So I think this is the thing. When I manage performance, I collaborate with my team members to identify what they want, so that then we can work on it together. So when I'm training someone, I'm not coming from a place of I'm the expert. We're forming outcomes together and working together on those outcomes. And again, I think the final thing is leading as a manager. So when you're leading someone, you're trying to do what's best for the business's outcome and for their outcome. If you marry that over time, you get result. And I think, again, this is the thing. It's why throughout the changes that's happened in the world, I focused on building my own team, because I know that not everyone is going to be right for you. However, if I give everyone a good experience, then I'm going to automatically find the best people to work with in my business. So there are people that have left my business. In fact, again, within hardcore sales-driven industries, my retention rate isn't the greatest. I'm not going to win a HR award from it. But what I can say is that people that leave me have a positive experience because I'm very much focused on them and their well-being and their outcomes that they want. So I think this is the thing, is a real leader, you want to be giving to your staff, but I think what that means is they give back to you. One of my team members has probably worked an additional 100 hours, more than I would expect him to. I keep saying, have some time off, but he does that because he loves his job, he loves the outcome that he wants to create, and he feels happy and safe within our team. And I think this is the thing. It's why I started working with one of my now business partners, is because he saw the marketplace crashing a bit, and rather than make people redundant, he realized what cash he needed to ensure that everyone could pay their bills and rent. It was very transparent throughout this process. So now we're in a place where rather than our staff members feeling demotivated, our team members going out there. So our September has been the best month we've had for 6 months, and the first 2 weeks of our October look like they're going to destroy that. So again, my final point in terms of managing performance is measure what everyone needs to do in terms of inputs to create an output. Track those inputs. And this is the thing, you can be honest with someone. So when someone is under their targets for what I expect in terms of activity, I never have to start that conversation. So I had a team member under target because they've got a clear target, they've got clear measurements, and they didn't hit it. So they know coming into that meeting, they want to be honest with me about it. And this is the thing, everyone's allowed a bad day. They know that I can have a bad day. However, also, if someone's not doing their activity for 3 months, they know that there's no excuse because we've had this conversation a couple of times. And I've found this in the past. People that have not done the activity required, they weren't right for the business. So what often I said was, look, this isn't something you enjoy. What would you enjoy? So that person can still have a positive experience with me. Now, this is the thing. If I'm then measuring stuff, and for anything I measure, I want a clear reason for it. So I had this salesperson, and he was looking at the best clients to have within an industry. So he only target bigger companies. So naturally, he found himself in long tendering processes. He wasn't really getting conversion because to win a big client takes time. So one of the companies that I've delivered training to in the past, if I asked you to list 10 companies, it would be one of the companies you'd list. Now, to get within that company took 7 face-to-face meetings when they was interested. And that's a great question. I'm going to come on to that question in a second. So they had 7 people they had 7 conversations, or very intense conversations, before working with us. To even get the first conversation was about 15 months of building relationships. So this consultant was only going after bigger types of companies. So me and him sat down. We realized that he wasn't speaking to the right amount of companies. We realized why. So I set him a target, which we collaborated on. So I didn't just say, oh, here's the target. I said, look, what do you think I would expect? He said, this is what I would expect. And this is the thing. Within 6 months, he was one of the top selling salespeople, just because we had a collaboration around his numbers. We had an honest conversation with it. And the conversation being led by him showed him the activity that he needed to do to create the outcome that both of us wanted. Yvette's got this great question in terms of salespeople. Maybe they want to stay because of money and have negative behavior. As a leader, you want to always be balancing different things. However, I think anyone who's done significant sales management can say that a bad member of staff can cost you more money, even if they're profitable. As an example, I was consulting for a very, very, very big company, and they had this salesperson in a Scottish office pretty much making 70% of the GP for the Scotland team. So absolutely killing it in terms of sales. But they were quite toxic as an individual. So the retention for people working with them within their team was low. And it was low because that person was toxic and didn't want to get on with other people. I was actually involved in really understanding and evaluating what the cost benefit analysis ratio was for that. So was this amount of person generating revenue that negated all the people leaving? The answer is no. In fact, if each one of the salespeople had been retained X amount longer, then the business would have been more profitable not having that person there. They got rid of the person. I think with salespeople, people are going to be driven by different things. There is one of the salespeople in my team who wants to make money, but wanting to make money is never going to be the only thing. He's competitive, so he wants to win at things. He also likes to be seen as a good and honest person. He's got traditional family values, but he wants to make money so he can feed his family in a positive way. So I think this is the thing. As a salesperson and as a business owner, you want to balance different things. You want to balance the different things that people could be looking for, because a good salesperson often will want money, but what else do they want? And equally, what do they do to create profit for you? I've been in enough environments to say that sales has changed. Back in the day, someone could be a bad egg at work and maybe rude to another team member, and it would stay within their office. Now, that could be picked up by media. If some of the things that I would have seen growing up, now, particularly in some sales environments, now they would get shared and that business would be put into or seen in a very negative light. So as a business and a business owner, you want to consistently be thinking of the next 10 to 20 years if you want to get big results. Like I'm not scared to say that I have big dreams, that I personally want to have businesses that have 100 million turnover. So I'm not necessarily just focused on gross profit. I want a big chunky business. But I also don't want to do that at the expense of being a bad person. Like, again, I think the core of base is this idea of humanizing businesses beyond profit. The most profitable businesses I know are those that give lots of value to their audiences. So I think as a business owner wanting to achieve these results, however, being a modern salesperson, knowing that the way to achieve these results is to give more to my clients, to give more to my team members, to give more to my audience, to give more to other people's audiences. If I know that as a business owner, then I can achieve all sorts of different things. So Yvette said, how do I give more to the sales team? I understand what all of my sales team are looking for. I understand that one of the people is motivated because he wants to live in Thailand. And there was always this thing about, okay, well, at one point, this guy can go and live in Thailand when he makes enough money. I said to him, look, you could do this job from Thailand. Would you want to go there? So suddenly he knows that I listen to him. He knows that I actually care about him getting his outcome. And rather than being like the other directors and seeing, oh, it's not workable, actually, these days with technology, it is workable. One of my other salespeople, they really love not having sort of set hours. That was the thing that really wound them up about working for a big, big corporate company. So she loves the fact that I'm purely outcome focused. So I try and check in on her a bit less. In fact, we have one call. When I say, oh, these are the outcomes that I want, it's led from her. So sometimes I know she puts in serious hours for me. Other times she doesn't. So as a sales manager, you really want to understand, what do your team members want? What are their outcomes? And how can you give them their outcome? And how can they give you your outcome? No one in my business is or doesn't know what our turnover is, what our profitability is. Everyone knows what our shared targets are within each of our teams anyway. So, for example, one of the businesses is focused on doing £100,000 gross profit every single month. That's on the every quarter. So obviously we sell contract recruitment, so the revenue is going to be higher on that. But we know as a benchmark, our target is £100,000 of GP per quarter. Every team member knows that. They also know how much they're expected to contribute, and they also know what inputs they need to do to potentially reach that contribution. And I think this is the thing as a business owner, like what I've seen people do is try and hide everything. My team members like it when I'm successful. And also when things aren't going well, they're happy to pitch in. Because I really share with them my why. I share why stuff's important to me. I share that it's not just about money. Nothing is. Like if I said I want 100 mil at all costs, that wouldn't be me. That would be going against my values. I would rather never achieve 100 mil turnover and have the right type of business. And I think this is the thing. You want to understand what people want. You understand what you want as well. So obviously I've talked about 4 core things. So I've talked about how you understand your business. I've talked about recruiting, then onboarding, and then measuring performance. Obviously, I've gone through lots of different things. I've not necessarily gone into loads of depth. And one thing I'll say is this. If you want to arrange a conversation with me to go through any of this, I'm available. I'm going to share my email address within the comments because I noticed that businesses often go through the same problems. They have no process. So, for example, with salespeople, they'll onboard salespeople and not give them a clear process to follow. So with that, what happens is they pay for someone to come on board and that person doesn't know what to do. And they don't know what that person needs to do and nothing happens. So whenever I onboard someone, whenever I bring someone new to the business, I give them a process. I then actually over time collaborate with them in terms of how to maximize that process and fit it towards them. The next thing I know is that, I see, is that staff aren't trained correctly on following those processes. One of the businesses I'm involved with has been going for 15 years. Now, the reason it's not grown as big as it could have is because people would come in and try and do their own thing. There was no real standardized operating procedures. Have a clear process or a standard operating procedure and train people how to do it. And train people on 2 things. Train them on the process, but equally train them on the behavior which gets the outcome that process is there for. So, for example, if I've got a process that is designed to see whether someone fits within a client of ours, so a recruitment process, I then train that person on why I want them to follow my process, but also why my process exists in the first place and the behavior that I want that process to cause. Often as a recruiter, the process that I want people to go through is just being curious. I want my salespeople to be curious. So I train them on it, but I will then say over time as they gain more experience, this is the behavior. So follow this, do your own process or create your own process. And the final problem is they don't manage the staff. And this is the thing. What that means as a business owner, you need to build processes within your business. Sales processes, recruitment processes, operating processes. You need to train your team and you need to manage your team members in an appropriate way. Part of my business solves those problems. So I own a sales training company. Typically, we work with recruitment agencies where we've built their processes, their internal processes. We've trained their team members and we manage performance. Nowadays, most of my time is spent doing this stuff with my team members. So it's rarely that I do client-based stuff. So we have other consultants involved, but occasionally I do it. So what I've done, because I love speaking at Base Conference, is I've allowed for some time once I'm back from a holiday to speak to people. So what I'm going to do is leave my email in this chat, or you'll see it at the end of this slide. It's ben@gtex.org.uk. So send me an email and I will respond to it and I will let you know when we can speak. I really hope you enjoyed this presentation. Let me know if you've got any questions in the chat. So I know I've got another 5 minutes here. If there's any questions in the chat, feel free to speak to me. I hope anyone going through this is enjoying it. And look, I hope you enjoy the rest of your base conference. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Ben Shorter. I'm going to be stick around. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask in chat before I then stop sharing. Thank you so much, Yvette. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, JP and Estelle. So I've got 3 businesses. So one is an expert business. So we train up experts. We've been going for 7 years. We've got numerous coaches and trainers, and we support people that are in the expert world to build a 6-figure income. The other one is a recruitment agency. So where I used to train a lot of recruitment agencies, one of my small clients who I really love, I think their values are great, we invested heavily in them. So we run a recruitment agency focused on placing people that serve their countries. So typically we place someone from the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force within different businesses around the world. And then finally, I do a record label for fun.
A record label?
A drum and bass record label.
Nice. So thank you so much. It was really great to have you in the base conference. And it looks like everyone had lots of fun looking at the comments and the questions and things. There is a quick closing session just on the main stage. So if once you drop off here, remember to jump back onto the main stage for a quick close, and then we'll see you all tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your base conference.